The heavy silence of the evening is broken only by the faint crackle of a distant fire and the soft rustle of leaves in the cool desert breeze. The saloon, though humble in its appearance, stands as a beacon of life in the otherwise barren landscape of the Wild West. It's a place of refuge and escape, where men come to forget their troubles and women come to earn their living, far from the comforts of the civilization they left behind. You stand by the worn wooden bar, the dim light of the lantern flickering overhead, casting long, distorted shadows across the room. Your fingers gently tap against the counter, a rhythm you've long grown accustomed to, while your gaze drifts toward the door where the last rays of sunlight fade into the desert horizon. Tonight is like any other. The men have come and gone, their faces familiar, their demands predictable. A glance at the other side of the room reveals the girls, the women who work for you and with you, sitting idly, chatting softly, or maintaining their aloof composure. Each of them is a story, a life lost to the harshness of the West, and yet each carries her own strength, her own way of surviving in a world that has no room for the weak. You glance at the clock on the wall. It's late, too late for a quiet evening, but it's not the first time that you found yourself alone in your thoughts, contemplating the price of survival. There's always a price. For the men who come through those swinging doors, it's a fleeting escape. Comfort in the arms of a woman who can make them forget their own desperation, if only for a moment. For the women who work here, it's the struggle to remain dignified, even as the world around them demands that they give up their worth for coin. But for you, the madam, the one who owns this place, the price is higher still. You've built this saloon with your own hands, your own blood, sweat, and determination. It's not just a business, it's a fortress, a world that you control, where the rules bend to your will. You know this place is a far cry from the world you once dreamed of. A life of ease and comfort, a life untouched by the harshness of the frontier. But it is what you have now, and in this world of dust and blood, it's all that you can rely on. As you turn away from the bar, a soft clink of glass reminds you that the night is far from over. One of the men raises his glass, signaling for another drink, his face flushed with the alcohol that has made him forget, even if for a short while, the emptiness of his existence. You meet his gaze, and for just a moment you wonder if he knows that the woman who serves him is more than just an object of his desire. He doesn't, of course. None of them do. To them, you are the saloon keeper, the provider of pleasure and escape. They can't see the layers beneath, the woman who has fought tooth and nail for everything she has, for the control she exerts over this place, and over her own fate. The door swings open, and another patron steps in, the familiar sound of the wood creaking beneath his boots, cutting through the quiet. You take a deep breath, steadying yourself for what's to come. Another evening, another round of games, lies, and pretenses. Another night where you play the role you've been given in this unforgiving world. But as you move to serve the newcomer, something flickers in the back of your mind. A thought, fleeting but persistent. For all the power you wield here, for all the control you've fought so hard to maintain, you are still at the mercy of this place, at the mercy of the men who come here, and the world that continues to judge you. You've built this life on your own terms, but you wonder sometimes how long it will last. You wonder sometimes if there's something more to your existence than just surviving. But, for now, you push those thoughts aside, your gaze sharpening as you focus on the man at the bar. The game never changes in the Wild West, only the players, and you've learned how to play the game better than most. The man at the bar, a rugged figure with a thick mustache and a crooked grin, raises his glass as you approach. The dim lantern light catches the edges of his weathered face, casting shadows that make him look older than he probably is. His hands, calloused from years of hard labor, grip the glass tightly, as if it's the only thing anchoring him to the reality of the moment. His eyes, clouded with too much drink and too many regrets, meet yours with a familiarity that tells you he's been here before. Maybe not this exact saloon, but places like it. Men like him are a dime a dozen in this part of the world. They come, they drink, and they leave, always chasing something they can't name. You pour the whiskey, the rich amber liquid filling his glass with a satisfying sound. As the liquid splashes against the glass, the faint smell of the alcohol wafts up, sharp and intoxicating. You set the bottle down, your fingers grazing the edge of his glass. The contact is brief, but in that fleeting moment you can feel the weight of his need, the desperation that lurks just beneath his outward bravado. He may be here for a drink, but what he truly seeks is something far more elusive, a sense of meaning, of connection, of escape from the barren emptiness of his life. Another round, you ask, your voice smooth, practiced. It's a question, but you already know the answer. The man's eyes linger on you, just a fraction too long, as if he's weighing something in his mind. Then, with a shrug, he places his empty glass back on the bar. Yeah, he mutters, his voice rough, as though speaking requires more energy than it's worth. You pour again, this time with a bit more distance between you. You don't need to ask what he's after. The men who come here don't want conversation. They don't want companionship. They want relief. They want someone to listen, someone to look at them with something other than judgment. And for a price, that's exactly what you provide. As you move down the bar, you notice the other faces in the room. Some familiar, some new. There's the old gambler, his eyes darting nervously, as though he knows he's in too deep but is too far gone to pull out. There's the young miner, barely old enough to shave, trying to act tough as he runs his fingers through the dirt caked in his hair. And there's the man in the back, sitting in the shadows, his face obscured by the brim of his hat. He's been here for hours, nursing the same drink, never speaking, just watching. You can't quite place him, but there's something about him that feels different. Your eyes linger on him for a moment longer than is necessary. Then you turn away, focusing on the task at hand. There's always someone to watch, always someone to manage. In a saloon like this, that's part of the job. The vigilance, the awareness of everything and everyone around you. You can't afford to let your guard down. You can't afford to miss a single detail. It's why you're still standing here, in control of everything, while so many others have fallen. The door swings open again, this time with a more forceful creak. The chill of the night air slips in with the newcomer, sending a shiver through the room. He's tall, broad-shouldered, with a cowboy hat pulled low over his eyes, but you can still see the glint of his well-worn rifle slung over his back. His boots make a heavy sound against the wooden floor as he steps in, scanning the room with a sharp, calculating gaze. There's something about him that makes the room grow just a little quieter. People shift, glances are exchanged, and for a moment it feels like the tension in the air thickens. The newcomer pauses, takes in the scene, then strides toward the far end of the bar, where a shadowy corner awaits him. You watch him for a moment longer than usual, but then you return to your duties, preparing for the evening rush. As you walk back down the bar, your mind briefly drifts to the man in the corner. There's always someone new, someone with a story, someone with a need, and you've seen enough of it to know that nothing in this place is ever as simple as it seems. But, for now, the only thing that matters is keeping the drinks flowing, keeping the conversation light, and making sure the men don't forget what they came here for. In this world, survival is the ultimate game, and as the madam of the saloon, you've learned how to play it better than anyone. As the night deepens, the low murmur of conversation fills the air, punctuated by the occasional burst of laughter or a half-hearted argument over a card game. The atmosphere inside the saloon grows thicker, the air heavier with the mix of whiskey, tobacco, and the sweat of the men who've gathered here, looking for a break from their harsh lives. The lights flicker from the lanterns hanging above, casting a dim, almost ethereal glow that dances across the walls, illuminating the faces of the patrons. Some look like they've been here for years, others for only a few hours, but all of them share the same thing. A need for something more than the daily grind, a desire to forget their troubles, even if just for a moment. You move through the room with practiced ease, your presence commanding the space without needing to raise your voice. There's a rhythm to the way you navigate the room, the way you make sure everyone has what they need, whether it's a drink, a game, or simply someone to talk to. You've seen it all, the quiet desperation, the loud boasting, the occasional bursts of violence that erupt when tempers flare. But you've learned to manage it, to stay calm in the chaos. It's what keeps the saloon running smoothly, what keeps your empire intact. You stop by a table where two men are playing cards, their hands moving swiftly, their eyes sharp with focus. One of them, a grizzled old rancher, looks up as you approach, giving you a nod of recognition. "Madam," he says with a grin that doesn't quite reach his eyes, his voice gravelly from years of hard drinking and harder living. "What's the game tonight?" "Same as always," you reply with a smile, leaning casually against the table. The stakes are high, the whiskey's low, and the night's still young. You tap your fingers on the edge of the table, watching their movements with a sharp eye. These men don't play for fun. They play for money, for pride, for a chance to prove themselves. You can see it in the way they hold the cards, in the intensity of their glances when they think no one's looking. It's all part of the game. The bluffing, the subtle cues, the silent war of wills. The rancher deals the cards, his hand steady but quick. As he does, you can't help but notice the tension in the air. The subtle shift in the room as other patrons begin to take an interest in the game. It's not just the money they care about, it's the spectacle. This is the Wild West after all, where every small victory or loss is a story in itself. A chapter in a book that's written with the sweat, blood, and dreams of those who live it. You step back, giving them space to play, but your eyes stay fixed on the game. You've learned more about human nature in this saloon than you ever could have imagined. People reveal themselves in the smallest moments, in the way they shuffle their cards, in the way they sip their drinks, in the way they look at you when they think you're not watching. They think they can hide their secrets, but you've seen them all. Their desperation, their brokenness, their fear of what's to come. And yet, you never let them see how much you understand. You're not just the madam of this place. You're its keeper, its protector, and sometimes its judge. The game goes on, the cards being dealt and reshuffled with practiced speed. The men's faces grow more intense as the stakes rise, and you feel the familiar pulse of tension that comes with these late-night games. You've been through enough of them to know when things are about to get ugly. When the money runs low, when pride is on the line, when the whiskey flows too freely, that's when the real danger begins. But tonight, for whatever reason, there's something different in the air. The fight, the tension, it all seems a little more distant, as if the room itself knows that for all its chaos, there is a strange peace that's settled over it. You turn and glance at the other side of the room, where one of your girls is chatting with a customer. The man's hand is resting a little too familiarly on her arm, and her expression is polite but distant, like it always is when the conversation takes a turn she's not comfortable with. She's learned how to handle these situations, how to smile, how to laugh, how to deflect the unwanted attention. But as the night wears on and the hours slip by, you can see the weariness in her eyes. You've seen it in them all, the same weariness that you carry, that you hide behind the smile, the business, the control. You walk over to her, making sure to catch her eye. Without a word, you give her a brief nod, and she excuses herself from the man, offering him a polite smile before walking away. You watch as she moves, her body language stiffening slightly once she's out of his reach. You know that look. She's thinking of something far away, somewhere where the weight of this life doesn't press so heavily on her shoulders. As she heads to the back room, you can't help but feel a pang of something you don't often allow yourself to feel. Sympathy. These women, all of them, they've chosen this life for different reasons. Some out of necessity, some out of desperation, some because they've nowhere else to go. But every one of them is bound to this place, to this world, in ways they can't escape. And you, as the madam, as the one who controls it all, you understand that more than anyone. You glance back at the card game. The stakes have risen, the players now eyeing each other with the intensity of wolves circling their prey. The saloon is filled with the murmurs of the evening, the clink of coins, the shuffle of cards, and the occasional laugh that doesn't quite reach the heart. For a brief moment you allow yourself to step away from the chaos, to think about the future, the possibility of something more than this, something better for your girls, for yourself. But it's a fleeting thought, one that you quickly bury beneath the layers of reality that have kept you going all this time. For now, the game continues, the night stretches on, and you, the keeper of this world, remain in control, ensuring that the dance of survival continues, unnoticed by the world outside. The night deepens, and the saloon becomes alive with the hum of hushed voices, the clinking of glasses, and the soft shuffle of boots on the wooden floor. It's a symphony of noise that somehow feels like the pulse of the night itself, a rhythm that's as old as the land, as ancient as the West. The air grows warmer, the smell of smoke and whiskey thickening as the fire in the hearth crackles, casting dancing shadows across the room. You move behind the bar, preparing for another round of drinks, your movements fluid and practiced, as you've done 1,000 times before. Yet, tonight, something feels different. There's an energy in the room, a tension that has nothing to do with the usual drunken brawls or the occasional heated card game. You glance at the man in the back corner again, the one who's been sitting quietly for the past hour. He hasn't ordered much, just nursing a half-empty glass of whiskey. But there's something about him. It's the way he watches everything, his eyes scanning the room with a sharpness that doesn't match the typical patron of a saloon like this. He isn't here to escape. He's here for something more, and the longer he stays, the more you feel the weight of his presence pressing down on you. You try to shake off the unease that has begun to settle into your stomach, but it lingers, a gnawing discomfort that you can't ignore. The man's face is hard, unreadable, like the landscape of the desert outside, vast, barren, and unforgiving. You've seen his type before, the lone wolves, the drifters who come into town, searching for something they can never find. They're always dangerous, always unpredictable. But tonight there's a deeper sense of foreboding in the air, something that makes the usual late-night comfort of the saloon feel hollow. The girl at the far table, young Sadie, is playing a game of cards with a few of the regulars, laughing at their jokes, her eyes bright, despite the world she inhabits. She's young, maybe too young, but you can see the potential in her. The same spark you once had, the same hope that brought you here all those years ago. But that hope has long since faded for you. You know what happens to women like Sadie in this world. You've seen it too many times before. No matter how hard she tries to carve out a different life for herself, she'll be bound by the same rules that have kept you here, stuck in the saloon, unable to break free from the confines of this world. The door swings open again, and the cold night air rushes in, filling the room with a biting chill. A group of men enters, their laughter boisterous, their steps heavy with the weariness of a long day's ride. They're the kind of men who always come in packs, outlaws, traders, drifters looking for a place to spend their earnings, looking for a woman to fill the loneliness of the road. They take no notice of you as you pour drinks, but you can feel their eyes on the girls, assessing, judging, as if they're deciding who they'll take back to their rooms for the night. You serve them quickly, efficiently, moving between them with the practiced ease that comes with years of experience. You've learned not to flinch, not to be intimidated. You've had to. This life doesn't allow for weakness. You offer them a smile, but it's a calculated one that hides everything you don't want them to see. The exhaustion, the bitterness, the anger you keep buried deep inside. And then, just as you're about to turn away, you hear it. A soft voice, almost too quiet to be heard over the noise of the saloon. "Madam," the voice calls, smooth and deliberate. You freeze for a moment, your heart skipping a beat. You recognize it immediately. It's the man from the corner, the one who's been watching, the one whose eyes have been following your every move. He's speaking to you now, and for the first time tonight, a shiver runs down your spine. You turn slowly, meeting his gaze across the room. He's standing now, his body tall and lean, like a shadow moving through the dim light. The firelight catches his features, highlighting the sharp angles of his face, the darkness of his eyes. There's something unsettling about the way he looks at you, something that feels almost predatory, yet oddly respectful. He's not like the others. He's not here just to pass the time or indulge in fleeting pleasure. There's an intensity to him that makes you wary, and you can't shake the feeling that he knows something you don't. "Yes?" you ask, your voice steady, though your heart is beating faster now. "I was wondering," he begins, his voice smooth and controlled, "if you might have a moment to speak." He pauses, watching you closely, as if waiting for your response. You hesitate, your mind racing. 1,000 thoughts cross your mind at once. What does he want? Why is he here? You've had your share of customers with hidden agendas, men who come with offers that seem too good to be true, only to leave behind trouble that's worse than the last. But something in the way he carries himself, something in the quiet authority of his presence makes you hesitate. This isn't just another customer. There's more to this than meets the eye. You consider him for a moment longer, studying his posture, his expression, the way he's standing there waiting. Finally, you nod, the decision made. Follow me, you say, turning towards the back room where you do your business in private. As you move through the saloon, your mind races. You don't know why you're agreeing to this, why you're letting this man step into your world so easily. But there's something about him, something compelling that you can't ignore. You step into the back room, the door closing softly behind you, and for the first time in a long while, you feel a flicker of uncertainty. The world outside may be filled with noise, with chaos, but in this room, it's just you and him, and you're not sure yet which one of you will come out of it unchanged. The back room is dimly lit, the faint glow from a single oil lamp casting long shadows across the walls. It's a space where business gets done, a place for deals, conversations that go beyond simple pleasantries, where you can close the door on the noise of the saloon and focus on what really matters. As you step inside, you can feel the weight of the silence, a stark contrast to the rowdy atmosphere of the bar. The door shuts softly behind you, sealing off the noise of the saloon, the chatter, and the clinking of glasses. It's just the two of you now, alone in this small, quiet room. The man follows you in, his footsteps barely audible against the wooden floor. He stands still for a moment just inside the door, his eyes scanning the space, the faintest trace of curiosity in his gaze. You can't help but notice the way he moves, calm, deliberate, with a quiet confidence that you've only seen in men who have lived through battles and survived, the kind of men who command attention without ever raising their voice. You turn to face him, taking a slow breath, trying to mask the unease stirring in your chest. For a moment, neither of you speaks, and the silence stretches, heavy with expectation. You stand there, your back straight, watching him closely, waiting for him to make the first move. This is your domain, your place of control, but for the first time tonight, the sense of control slips away, replaced by a subtle uncertainty that you can't quite shake. He steps forward, his eyes never leaving yours. The look in his gaze is intense, calculating, as if he's sizing you up, but not in the usual way. It's different. It's as though he sees more than just the madam of the saloon, the woman who runs the business. He sees something deeper, something beneath the surface. You feel a flicker of something unfamiliar at the back of your mind, something you've learned to ignore over the years, but can't quite push aside now. "You're not like the others," he says, his voice low and measured, each word deliberate, as if he's chosen it with care. The statement catches you off guard, and you arch an eyebrow slightly, a smile tugging at the corner of your lips, though you keep it hidden. "Is that so?" you reply, your voice smooth, controlled. "How do you figure?" He takes another step closer, and this time you don't step back. Instead, you stand firm, feeling the weight of his presence in the small room. There's a subtle tension in the air, a charged atmosphere that you're not used to. You've dealt with men like him before, men who think they can control everything around them, men who believe that with the right words, they can bend you to their will. But something about this one is different. He doesn't try to impose his presence. He doesn't need to. It's already there. You don't hide behind your role, he says, his eyes searching yours as if looking for something deeper. You play the game, yes, but you don't pretend it's all you are. That's what sets you apart. You don't speak at first, considering his words. They feel like an assessment, a judgment, but not in the way you're used to. You've had your share of men come through these doors, each of them trying to figure you out, to understand the woman behind the mask. But this man, this one is different. His words feel like a challenge, an invitation to something more. The quiet strength in his voice stirs something in you, something long buried. You take a slow breath, trying to regain some semblance of control. You've spent too many years building this life, this empire of yours, to let someone in with a few well-chosen words. But here now, with him standing in front of you, you feel a momentary lapse in that control. You stare at him for a long moment, assessing him just as he's done to you. "I've learned not to," you finally say, your voice steady but with an edge of something that's hard to place. It's too dangerous to be anything other than what people expect. It's the only way to survive. He watches you, and for a moment you think he might say something more, but he doesn't. Instead, he tilts his head slightly, as if considering your words carefully, then nods once, a quiet gesture that carries an unspoken understanding. There's a brief pause before he speaks again, his tone softer now, almost contemplative. "You've built something impressive here," he says, his eyes scanning the room, taking in the surroundings as if evaluating them, much like you evaluate the people who walk through these doors. "But I wonder, how much of it is really yours?" The question hangs in the air between you, and for the first time tonight, you feel a slight shift in your demeanor. His words strike at something deeper, something you don't often allow yourself to think about. It's not just the business, not just the power you've gained over the years. It's the question of whether it's all worth it, whether the price you've paid, the choices you've made, have truly given you the life you wanted, or if you've become someone else entirely in the process. You look away for a moment, trying to steady yourself, but the truth lingers in the air like smoke. Unavoidable, impossible to ignore. You force a smile, the practiced one that has served you for so many years. "Everything I have is mine," you say firmly, though the words feel slightly hollow as you say them. "I've earned it, every bit of it." He doesn't respond right away. Instead, he steps back, his gaze still on you, thoughtful. It's as if he's decided to leave you with that thought, to let it sit unanswered between the two of you. "You're right," he says at last, his voice softer. "But the question is, what will you do with it?" You stand there in silence for a long moment, the weight of his words settling over you. There's something about him, something that feels both unsettling and intriguing, and for the first time in a long time, you wonder whether the walls you've so carefully built around yourself are enough to keep everything at bay. The fire crackles softly in the corner, but the room feels colder now, the air thick with the unspoken tension that lingers between you. You know you'll have to make a decision, one way or another, but for now you let the silence stretch out, your gaze meeting his once more. The game has changed and you can feel it. The quiet that fills the room is heavier now, almost suffocating. The man in front of you is no longer just another customer, no longer just a stranger in your saloon. There's something about him, something in the way he looks at you, something in the way he stands, that makes you pause. You've dealt with many men in your time, each with their own agendas, their own needs, their own hidden motives, but this one is different. He's not trying to impress you, not trying to take something from you. There's a depth in his gaze that feels like he's trying to figure you out, not just for who you are in the moment, but for who you've become. And somehow, in that moment, it makes you question yourself. You turn away from him for a brief moment, forcing yourself to breathe. The air in the room feels too thick, and the silence between you feels almost too intimate, as though you're sharing something that neither of you truly wants to acknowledge. You walk toward the far corner of the room, the soft shuffle of your boots against the wooden floor breaking the stillness, but only just. The flickering lamplight casts a warm glow on the floorboards, the firelight creating moving patterns against the walls. For a moment, you close your eyes and let the warmth of the room settle into your bones, trying to push away the unsettling feeling that this encounter has stirred in you. You've faced enough challenges in your life to know how to keep your composure, how to protect yourself, but with him, it's different. It's like he's peeling back the layers of your carefully constructed mask, and you're not sure how much of yourself you want to reveal to him. You hear his footsteps behind you before he speaks again. His voice is calm, almost soothing, but there's an intensity to it that cuts through the quiet. "You've built this place into something," he says, his words thoughtful, as if he's choosing them carefully. "But I wonder if it's truly what you want, or if it's just what you've had to become." You turn to face him again, your gaze meeting his with a coolness you don't quite feel. There's a flicker of something, resentment perhaps, or maybe something deeper, rising in your chest. You've spent so many years building this saloon, fighting to maintain control in a world that constantly tries to strip away your power. And here he is, a man who barely knows you, questioning everything you've worked for. "You don't know anything about me," you reply, your voice firm but tinged with something softer, something more vulnerable than you intended. "You don't know what I've had to sacrifice to build this, what I've had to become to survive." His gaze softens for just a moment, a flicker of understanding in his eyes, but it's gone as quickly as it came. He doesn't speak right away, but his presence is more tangible now, like a weight pressing against you. You can feel the tension between you, the unspoken words, the things you both know but can't quite say. It's as if he's seen something in you that you've worked so hard to bury, something you've long ago pushed aside in the name of survival. Maybe, he says, his voice quieter now, but there's a hint of curiosity, almost like he's daring you to confront it. But I also think you've got more left in you, more than this place, more than what you've been doing here. You've got the power to change it all, to do something that's truly yours. His words land like a spark, igniting something inside you. It's a feeling you've tried to ignore for so long, a yearning for something different, something more than the endless cycle of survival and control. For a brief moment, you let your guard down. Just a fraction, and the possibility of something else, something beyond this life, slips into your mind. But you quickly push it away, the old familiar walls rising around you once more. You can't afford to entertain such thoughts. Not here, not now. You talk like you know me, you say, your voice steady but colder now. But you don't. You don't know what it's like to have to fight for every inch, to have to take what you can get just to survive. He takes a step closer, his gaze never leaving yours. There's something in the way he moves, something calculated and deliberate but not threatening. He doesn't look like he's here to take anything from you, just to understand, to push you, to force you to confront the things you've kept hidden for so long. I know what it's like to fight, he says, his voice low, almost too soft. I know what it's like to lose everything and have to start over. But I also know that you can change the game. You don't have to keep playing by their rules. You don't have to keep hiding. The words hang between you like a challenge, daring you to take them in, to acknowledge the truth in them. But you can't. You've spent too long building this life, too long protecting yourself from the world outside. If you let go of that control, if you take a step outside the walls you've built, what's left? What will happen to you? To everything you've worked for? You can't let yourself go there. Not yet. You think it's that easy? You ask, your voice hardening, the familiar edge returning. That I can just walk away from everything I've built? That I can throw it all away because some stranger tells me I can do better? His eyes narrow, and for the first time, you sense a flicker of frustration in him. But it's not anger. It's something else. Something deeper. He's not trying to force you into anything. He's just trying to make you see what you've been too afraid to admit. No, he says quietly. I think it's hard. I think it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. But I also think you've already started. His words echo in your mind as you stand there, your heart pounding in your chest. For a brief moment, you feel something stir inside you. Something that's been buried so deep that you almost forgot it was there. A desire for more. A need for something different. But before you can fully grasp it, you push it away, locking it back inside the walls of your mind. The silence stretches between you, thick and heavy, until finally you break it. Your voice steady but with a trace of something softer, something more vulnerable than you've allowed yourself to feel in a long time. I don't need saving, you say, your eyes meeting his one last time. I just need to survive. He doesn't respond immediately. Instead, he nods, a silent acknowledgement of your words, and in that moment you both understand something, without saying it out loud. Survival is all you've known, but it's not all there is. For now, that's all either of you can hold on to. The room falls into a heavy silence after your words, the weight of the unspoken hanging between the two of you like a thick fog. He stands there, still as a statue, his gaze unwavering, as if he's waiting for you to say more, to open up in a way that you've never allowed yourself to before. But you can't. Not now. The walls you've spent years building around yourself feel too solid, too necessary to tear down, just for a fleeting moment of vulnerability. You take a step back, moving toward the bar to regain some space, to regain control. You feel his eyes on you still, but you don't meet his gaze. You focus instead on the familiar motions, the bottle of whiskey, the glass, the way your hand wraps around the neck of the bottle, the way the amber liquid swirls in the glass as you pour it. It's routine, something that grounds you, something that you know by heart. You don't need to think about it. It doesn't require you to feel. I didn't come here to save you, he says quietly, his voice softer now, almost hesitant, but there's no anger in it. I came here to remind you that you're more than just what you've become, more than just the role you play. You don't respond right away, not because you don't hear him, but because you can't. There's a part of you that's screaming to tell him he doesn't understand, to remind him that you've worked too hard, fought too long to get to this point, to let it all crumble just because of a few words. But you swallow it down. You don't have the energy for that fight anymore, not with him, not tonight. Instead, you place the glass back on the counter, your hands lingering on the wood as you take a slow, steadying breath. You're not sure if it's the whiskey or just the exhaustion, but the truth begins to seep in, unwanted, undeniable. The way he sees you, the way he seems to understand something about you that you're still too afraid to acknowledge. It stirs something deep inside, something that makes you uncomfortable, makes you want to run and hide from the possibility of change. But there's something about his presence that you can't ignore. It's not the words, not the challenge he's throwing your way. It's the quiet sincerity in his voice, the way he sees through the walls, through the mask you've worn so carefully all these years. And, perhaps most unnerving of all, you can't help but feel the smallest inkling of truth in what he's saying. You glance over at him, your eyes meeting his for the first time since the conversation began. His face is calm, but his eyes are sharp, studying you, waiting. There's no judgment there, no expectation, just a quiet understanding that feels like it could break you wide open if you let it. I've done what I had to do, you say finally, your voice a little more measured, though the words still feel heavy on your tongue. I've survived, I've built this place from nothing, and I'll keep it standing. I'm not asking for anything else. His eyes soften, just a little, but he doesn't say anything. It's as if he's waiting for you to see it, for you to come to the realization on your own. The silence stretches again, but this time it doesn't feel oppressive. Instead, it's almost comforting, like the quiet before a storm that's never quite coming. The calm before something shifts, something changes. You move away from the bar, your mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions you can't quite untangle. You glance at the girls sitting in the far corner, talking amongst themselves. Their laughter is low, almost forced, the kind that fills the empty spaces in the room, but doesn't quite reach their eyes. They've all been here too long, fought their own battles, lived through their own sacrifices, and yet there's a part of you that wonders if they too are trapped in the same way you are, caught between the desire for something more and the knowledge that the only thing that matters here is survival. You walk toward the back door of the saloon, where the night air feels cooler, the weight of the conversation still pressing on your shoulders. You need space, need to breathe, to think. The man hasn't followed you, but you can still feel his presence, his words hanging in the air between you, pulling at the corners of your mind. As you step outside, the cool night breeze greets you like an old friend. The desert air is sharp, carrying the scent of dry earth and distant cacti. You take a deep breath, letting the coldness fill your lungs, the quiet of the night settling over you. The sky above is wide, the stars scattered like diamonds, across a canvas of velvet black. For a moment you feel small, insignificant in the vastness of it all. The world outside this saloon feels so far away, so unreachable, as though it belongs to a different life, a different version of you. But then, as you stand there in the stillness, you realize something. You've been looking at the world through the lens of survival for so long that you've forgotten to look beyond it. You've forgotten what it feels like to want something else, something more. The idea of it frightens you, but it also excites you, in a way you haven't allowed yourself to feel in years. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the night wash over you, and when you open them again, you know that whatever comes next, whatever path you choose, you'll have to face it differently. You'll have to face it with the truth, with the realization that survival is no longer enough. You want more than just to endure. You want to live. The door behind you creaks open, and you turn to see the man standing there, his figure outlined against the dim light of the saloon. He says nothing, but you don't need him to. In the silence between you, something has changed. You're not sure what it is yet, but you feel it. like the first light of dawn breaking through the darkness. The journey isn't over, not by a long shot, but for the first time in a long time, you feel like you might finally be ready to take the next step. The cool desert air feels more refreshing now, though it still carries a trace of the day's heat. You stand by the back door of the saloon, the night wrapping around you like a soft blanket. The quiet of the evening is a stark contrast to the raucous noise of the saloon behind you. Here, in the calm, you find a rare moment of solitude, a chance to think, to breathe without the weight of the world pressing on your shoulders. You let the cool breeze brush against your face, the scent of dry earth and distant sagebrush filling your lungs. It's a simple, grounding feeling, one you've grown used to over the years of living in this place. Yet, despite the stillness, something inside you stirs, an uneasy feeling, a question that's been lingering at the edge of your mind ever since the man walked into your saloon. You can't quite put your finger on it, but it's there, like a quiet hum in the background of your thoughts. The way he looked at you, the words he spoke, there's something about him that's different, something that makes you feel, for the first time in a long time, that you're not just playing a part in this world, but that you're being seen for who you really are. The sound of the saloon door creaking open behind you pulls you from your thoughts. You turn to see him again, this time stepping out onto the porch, his silhouette outlined by the dim light of the saloon behind him. The flickering lanterns cast long shadows, but his presence is unmistakable, as if the very air around him shifts. He looks at you for a long moment, as if he's weighing something, perhaps even considering you in a way no one else ever does. "You know, I wasn't expecting to find you out here," he says, his voice softer now, almost conversational, as if the tension from earlier has melted away. He steps closer, but not too close, respecting the space you've carved for yourself, yet drawing near enough to make his presence known. The soft scrape of his boots on the wooden porch is the only sound that breaks the quiet, and it seems almost too loud in the stillness. "You should have known," you reply, your voice steady, though there's a slight tremor beneath it, an emotion you can't quite hide. "I'm always where I need to be." You look out into the night, the horizon stretching endlessly before you, as if the world itself holds its breath, waiting for what comes next. But you don't need to look at him to feel the weight of his gaze. It's almost as if he's peeling back layers of you, layers you've spent years carefully building, walls you've erected to protect yourself. He doesn't say anything for a moment, and the silence between you is thick, yet it doesn't feel uncomfortable. It feels like a space both of you need, an unspoken understanding, a moment of truth before the walls come up again. He's not like the others who come through these doors, not like the ones who pass in and out, leaving behind only empty promises and broken dreams. There's something real about him, something raw, and it unsettles you in a way you don't know how to handle. After a long moment, he steps forward again, his boots making a soft thud against the wooden boards. You don't move, but you feel the space between you close. It's not a threatening movement, it's deliberate, careful, as if he's waiting for you to make the next move. "I don't need your help," you say finally, turning to face him, your voice firm but with a trace of something softer lingering beneath. "I've been doing this on my own for a long time. I don't need anyone to tell me how to run my life, my business." His eyes soften for a brief second, and for a moment you feel the vulnerability there, his own walls starting to crack just as yours have. But then, just as quickly, his expression hardens, and the walls go back up. He nods, acknowledging your words, but there's something in his demeanor that makes you feel like he's not done yet. "I never said you did," he replies quietly, "but sometimes we all need someone to remind us what we're really after, to remind us of what we can become, not just what we've been." You can feel his words settle into your chest, a weight you hadn't expected. They hang there, lingering like smoke in the air. You want to dismiss them, to tell him he doesn't know anything about you or your life, but there's something in the way he looks at you, something in the quiet sincerity of his voice that makes you hesitate. For the first time in a long time, you wonder if he's right. What have you been after all these years? What have you been fighting for? This saloon, this business, it's everything you've built, everything you've worked for. But is it enough? Is it really all there is? Or have you become so focused on survival, on the game, that you've forgotten what it feels like to live? You let the thought linger, pushing it down deep inside you, not ready to confront it just yet. You've built too much, fought too hard to give it up now. But even as you push the thought away, something inside you shifts, something that you can't ignore. The man stands there, watching you closely, waiting for you to respond. But you don't know what to say. There's too much running through your mind, too many questions you've never allowed yourself to ask. "I don't know what you want from me," you say finally, your voice a little quieter than before. "But I can't give you what you're looking for. Not now. Not like this." His expression softens, and for the first time, you see something in his eyes, something that almost feels like understanding, like he knows exactly what you mean, what you've been through. He doesn't say anything, but he doesn't need to. The look in his eyes speaks volumes, and you know that for once, someone truly sees you. "You don't have to give anything," he says quietly, "but maybe, just maybe, you can start letting yourself take something back." And with that he turns, walking back toward the saloon, leaving you standing there, the desert night stretching before you, the weight of his words lingering like the fading warmth of the day. For the first time in a long while, you feel something stir inside you, a flicker of something more than survival. It's faint, almost imperceptible, but it's there, and you realize as the cool night air brushes against your skin that you may have just taken the first step towards something different. You stand there for a moment, still as the night around you, letting his words hang in the air like the faintest whisper of a breeze. It's a strange sensation, the shift in the room, the shift inside you. For so long you've held on to this life with everything you have, gripping it fiercely, determined to control every piece of it, every small detail. But tonight, something has slipped through your fingers. The walls that you've spent years building around yourself, around your heart, feel fragile now, as if they could crumble away at the slightest touch. You take a deep breath, trying to steady yourself. The sound of your own breath fills your ears, and for a brief moment, it feels like the only thing in the world. The saloon, the men inside, the life you've built, it all feels far away. It's strange, this distance you feel, as if you're no longer a part of the world you've been living in, no longer bound by the same rules. The air feels colder now, as if the night itself is pulling you away from everything you've known, from everything that has defined you. The soft rustle of his boots against the wooden floor pulls you back to the present. He's gone, leaving you standing alone under the dim lantern light. The room feels empty now, even though the others are still inside, still carrying on with their conversations, their laughter, their games. It all feels distant now, like the noise is happening in another world, one you don't belong to anymore. You feel a sudden heaviness in your chest, a tightness you can't shake, and for the first time in a long time, you let yourself feel the weight of it. You turn and walk back into the saloon, the familiar hum of conversation greeting you. But it's not the same. It's as if the noise has grown muffled, as if the space between you and the others has widened. You pass by the girls, some of them laughing, others lost in their own thoughts. They don't notice you, not really. They never do. They don't see the cracks, the pieces of you that are starting to break apart. You move behind the bar, your steps slower than usual, your mind still reeling from the encounter outside. The glassware is cold beneath your hands, the routine motions comforting, but they don't fill the hollow feeling inside you. You find yourself lost in the rhythm of it, the pouring of drinks, the quiet clink of glass against wood. But the movements feel automatic now, like you're just going through the motions, disconnected from the life you've spent so long building. You wonder if the other patrons can sense it too. The distance between you, the coldness that's settled in. The night continues, as it always does. The men come and go, their laughter rising and falling with the ebb and flow of the whiskey. You can feel their eyes on you, but it doesn't matter anymore. The saloon is full, but you're alone. You pour another drink, not for anyone in particular, just to keep your hands busy, to keep your mind from drifting. But it doesn't work. The silence between your thoughts is louder than anything the men in the saloon could say. You feel the weight of the choices you've made, the compromises, the pieces of yourself you've lost along the way. The control you fought so hard to maintain, the empire you've built, it doesn't feel as solid as it once did. It feels more fragile now, more transient. The door swings open again, and this time you don't even look up. The figure stepping inside is familiar, but you can't bring yourself to care. It's just another customer, just another man who will come in and leave, taking with him the illusion of connection, the illusion of something real. But as the man approaches, you feel a shift in the air. Something about the way he walks, the way his gaze flickers toward you, makes your pulse quicken. You finally look up, and your heart skips a beat. It's him, the man from outside, the one who has somehow left an imprint on your soul. He's standing there, his dark eyes searching yours, a subtle smile playing on his lips. He doesn't say anything at first, just watches you, his gaze steady and knowing. It's as if he can see right through the mask you've worn for so long, the one that's become a second skin. For a moment you can't move, can't speak. It's as if time has slowed, as if the world outside the saloon has ceased to exist. He's here again, and you're not sure why or what he wants, but you feel the weight of his presence in a way that feels like a question you're not sure you have the answer to. Finally, you take a breath, steadying yourself, and break the silence. What do you want? Your voice is steady, but there's a tremor underneath. You don't want him here. Not now, not like this. But you can't deny that part of you. The part you've tried so hard to bury wants to know the answer to that question. His smile widens slightly, and he steps closer, his presence overwhelming yet strangely comforting. I think you know what I want, he says softly. But what about you? What do you want? The question hits you harder than any challenge, any demand. You're not sure you've ever asked yourself that, not in the way he's asking. You've spent so long focusing on survival, on maintaining control, that you've forgotten what it feels like to want something, truly want something for yourself. For the first time tonight, you allow yourself to feel it. The weight of the choice before you, the possibility of something beyond just survival. It's terrifying, and yet, for the first time in a long while, it feels like freedom. You look at him, the man who has forced you to confront the parts of yourself you've spent years hiding, and you realize you're not just playing the game anymore. You're ready to change it. The tension between you hangs in the air, thick and unspoken, as you stand there looking at him. His gaze is unwavering, almost like he's waiting for you to say something more, to make the first move. You've spent so many years building up walls, keeping everyone at a distance, but here he is, breaking them down with a single look. And somehow, it doesn't feel threatening. It feels like a challenge, but also a strange invitation to something new, something unknown. You swallow, your throat dry, as if your own body is struggling to keep up with the emotions swirling inside you. The room around you feels distant now, like it's fading into the background. It's just you and him, the quiet flicker of the lanterns casting soft light on his face. The sound of the saloon seems muffled, as if the world outside this moment has been muted. Why are you here? You ask, the words coming out before you can stop them. It's not an accusation, not really. It's more of a question you need to ask yourself as much as him. You don't need him to answer. The question lingers between you, unanswered, but the weight of it feels heavy, as if his presence is forcing you to confront something you've been avoiding. He takes a step closer, his eyes not leaving yours. The air feels charged with an energy you can't explain, something almost magnetic. His proximity makes you feel exposed, as if all the carefully constructed layers of your life are peeling away, layer by layer, leaving you more vulnerable than you've been in a long time. You want to pull back, to retreat into the safety of your routine, of the walls you've built around yourself, but you can't. There's something in his gaze, something in the way he stands there, that makes you want to stand your ground, to face whatever it is that he's offering. I'm here because I think you're ready to ask yourself that question, he replies, his voice steady, low, almost soothing. You've been playing the game for so long, but I think you've started to wonder if it's the only game worth playing. His words hit you like a wave, knocking you off balance. You've spent so long just surviving, just managing the saloon, keeping everything in its place, that you've forgotten there was anything else to play for. Everything was about control, keeping the peace, managing the business, maintaining power. You were good at it, too good, but somewhere, buried deep within you, you know he's right. You've been asking yourself if there's more to life than this, more than just the endless cycle of business and survival. You don't know anything about me, you say, but even as the words leave your mouth, you know they're not true. He doesn't know everything, but he knows more than most. There's a part of you that feels exposed, vulnerable under his gaze, but another part, the part you've suppressed for so long, feels relieved to finally be seen. It's disarming, unsettling, and yet you can't look away. He doesn't respond to your words immediately. Instead, he just watches you for a long moment, as if waiting for you to come to the realization yourself. And you do, slowly, like a fog lifting from your mind. You've built this life, built it from the ground up, but it's been built on survival, not on living. You've forgotten what it feels like to live freely, to make choices not based on survival, but on desire, on something deeper. The realization stuns you for a moment, as if a veil has been lifted, and for the first time in years, you see the truth of your own life, of your own choices. You've become so good at surviving, so entrenched in this game, that you've forgotten there's a whole world outside of it, a world where you don't just survive, but thrive. The weight of his gaze makes you feel exposed, but not in the way you're used to. It's not the judgment you've endured for so long, the scorn of society, the sneers of those who look down on you for what you do. No, this is different. This is a gaze that sees you for who you are, for who you could be, and it's both terrifying and liberating. I don't know what to do with all of this, you admit softly, your voice barely a whisper. It's the first time you've said it aloud, the first time you've allowed yourself to voice the truth that's been lurking in the back of your mind for so long. You've always been so sure of yourself, of your place in this world, of the game you've been playing, but now faced with the reality of what it means to truly live, to truly be free, you feel like you're standing at the edge of something vast and unknown, and you're not sure if you're ready to take the leap. You don't have to know right now, he says gently, his voice a soothing balm to the storm inside you. It's not about having all the answers. It's about the willingness to ask the questions, to wonder what else is out there. You've been playing by their rules for so long, but it's time to start playing by your own. The words sink in slowly, like a seed being planted deep within you. You can't fully grasp it yet, but you feel it, the stirring of something new, something different. A part of you wants to resist, to retreat back into the familiar comfort of control and survival. But another part of you, the part that has been buried for so long, feels a pull towards something more. You feel the faintest flicker of hope, of possibility. You take a deep breath, steadying yourself, and for the first time tonight, you feel a spark of something you haven't felt in a long time. Curiosity. What would it be like, you wonder, to stop surviving and start living? What would it take to step out of this life you've built and into something new, something freer, something that belongs to you and no one else? But before you can dive deeper into those thoughts, the door to the saloon creaks open again, and the familiar sounds of the world outside begin to filter in. The moment passes, but you can't shake the feeling that something has changed. Something inside you has shifted, and you're not sure where it will lead. But for the first time in a long time, you feel ready to find out. The man gives you one last look, a look that speaks of understanding, of knowing more than you're willing to admit. And then, without a word, he steps back into the saloon, leaving you standing in the quiet of the night, the air filled with the weight of possibilities you never thought you'd face. The door to the saloon swings gently behind him, and the sound of his footsteps fades away into the background noise of the lively barroom. The brief encounter has left you shaken, but it's also stirred something inside of you, something you can't quite name. For a moment you stand there in the soft glow of the lanterns, the room suddenly too loud, too busy. You need space, you need time to process what just happened, to sift through the raw emotions that his words have unearthed. But you can't afford that, not now, not here. You take a slow, steadying breath, feeling the cool air from the open window gently caress your skin. You walk across the room, each step slower than the last, your mind whirling with questions you don't know how to answer. The familiar rhythm of the saloon's chaos seems distant now, the laughter, the chatter, all blending into a hum that you can barely register. Everything around you feels unreal, like you're watching it all unfold from a distance, as if the world itself is spinning a little too fast and you're struggling to keep up. Behind the bar, you reach for a glass, your hands moving without thinking, the motions automatic. The steady clink of glass on wood rings in your ears, the sound harsh against the soft hum of the saloon. You fill the glass with whiskey, watching the liquid swirl inside, the amber color catching the light just right. It's a simple, comforting task, something to ground you in the moment, to take you back to something familiar. You take the glass in your hand, the warmth of the liquor seeped into your fingers, and you sip it slowly. The burn of the whiskey on your throat is sharp, but it doesn't numb the confusion gnawing at the back of your mind. The man's words linger, hovering in the space between you and the world around you. What are you really after? It's a question that's been asked before, in one form or another, but tonight it feels different. Tonight it cuts deeper, because for the first time in a long time, you're not sure you have the answer. You move back toward the window, looking out into the night. The desert landscape stretches out before you, vast and empty, a reminder of how small and insignificant everything can feel. But for all its emptiness, there's a certain peace in the stillness of the night. The way the world seems to slow down, the way the stars flicker above like a silent promise that the chaos will eventually end. But it never does it? You think back to the life you've built, to the walls you've carefully erected to keep the world at bay. The saloon, your empire, it's all been about control, about making sure that no one can take anything from you. But now, with his words still echoing in your mind, you wonder how much of it has really been about control, and how much of it has been about fear. Fear of letting go, fear of what might happen if you stop playing the game, if you let someone else in. The quiet stirrings of doubt begin to creep in. Maybe, just maybe, you've been holding on to something that was never truly yours. Maybe you've been so focused on surviving, so focused on managing everything around you, that you've forgotten what it feels like to live freely, to want something without fearing the cost. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the feeling of the night wash over you, the coolness of the breeze mixing with the warmth of the whiskey in your hand. A noise from the other side of the room pulls you from your thoughts, the sound of laughter, of a man shouting across the room to one of the girls. Just another night, another series of transactions, another dance of power and need. But tonight, it feels different. You've seen it all before, yet now it all feels a little emptier, like a play that's gone on for too long, and you're starting to wonder if the ending will ever come. The girl from earlier, Sadie, catches your eye as she passes by, her expression distant, lost in thoughts that are too familiar. She's younger than the others, new to this world, still holding on to the remnants of innocence that have yet to be completely worn away. You can see it in the way she holds herself, the way she moves, like she's still unsure of where she belongs in this world. A part of you wants to warn her, to tell her that this life doesn't leave room for dreams, that it eats away at everything you are until there's nothing left but survival. But you don't. You just watch her go, your heart aching for her, for the pieces of herself she'll soon lose. You set the glass down on the counter with a soft clink, the sound drawing your attention back to the room. The other girls, the patrons, the low hum of conversation, all of it seems so distant now, like you're seeing it through a fog. You feel a strange sense of detachment, as if you're no longer a part of it, no longer tethered to this life. You've played the role so well for so long, but the truth is, you're not sure if it's enough anymore. You turn back toward the bar, your hands steadying themselves against the counter, trying to anchor yourself to something real. You're not sure what's happening, but you can feel it. Something is shifting inside of you, and for the first time in a long while, you wonder if it's time to stop surviving and start living. For a brief moment you consider walking out, leaving it all behind, The saloon, the men, the rules. But the thought feels like a dream, a fleeting, impossible thing. You've built your life on this, built everything you have from the ground up. Can you really walk away from it all? Can you really risk everything for the possibility of something better? A knock at the back door pulls you from your thoughts. It's soft at first, tentative, but it carries with it an urgency that you can't ignore. You straighten up, smoothing your dress, preparing yourself for whatever comes next. The weight of the moment settles on you once more, the tension rising in your chest as you take a slow breath. Whoever is on the other side of that door, whatever comes next, it's another step. And for the first time in a long time, you feel ready to take it. Your gaze drifts to the open night sky above, the stars scattered across the dark canvas, like tiny distant reminders that there is still beauty in the world, that there is still a vastness beyond the confines of the saloon. You think of the life you wanted once, before the war, before the saloon, before the walls. There was a time when you thought you could have something else, something more. It wasn't a dream, not exactly, but a possibility, a chance at something beyond the life you've carved for yourself here. You take a deep breath, your chest rising and falling with the weight of the decision that sits on the edge of your mind. For so long, you've clung to this life, clung to the control you fought for. It's been your armor, your shield against a world that wants to tear you apart. But you know, deep down, that it's also been your prison, and you've been trapped in it for far too long. I don't know what that looks like, you admit softly, your voice almost a whisper. What comes after this? After the saloon? After all of this control? He steps closer then, not enough to crowd you, but enough to close the gap that's formed between you. His presence is calm, steady, like the rock in a storm, and for the first time you don't feel like you're being pulled in 1,000 directions. You feel steady, like you can breathe again. He looks at you, his gaze unwavering, as if waiting for you to make the choice, to take the first step, to take the leap. Maybe you don't need to know right now, he says gently. Maybe it's enough to take the first step, the rest will follow. And with that, the weight that has been sitting on your shoulders for so long lifts just a little, the burden of uncertainty lightening. For the first time in a long while, you don't feel the need to have it all figured out. You don't need to have every answer. You just need to decide what to do next, to take that first step into something unknown, something different. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. The night stretches out before you, the cool air filling your lungs with the promise of possibility. The road ahead is unclear, but for the first time in years it doesn't matter. You're ready to walk it. You're ready to see where it leads. And as you stand there, the man beside you, the saloon behind you, you finally understand. This isn't just about surviving anymore. This is about living. And maybe that's the biggest change of all. You step forward, the faintest smile touching your lips, a quiet sense of resolve settling into your chest. Whatever comes next, you're ready. The stars above shine brightly now, more vivid than ever in the vast emptiness of the desert sky. It's as if the night itself is watching you, holding its breath as you take that first step away from everything you've known. The man stands beside you, silent and still, his presence a quiet strength that anchors you in this moment. You walk together, side by side, toward the horizon, where the world feels wide open, full of possibilities you can't yet see, but know are there. Each step you take seems to carry a weight you didn't realize you were carrying. The weight of years spent in survival, in control, in a life that was never yours to begin with. You don't look back at the saloon. You don't need to. It's still there, somewhere behind you, but it's no longer the center of your world. It's a chapter you've finished, a story that's come to an end. And while the road ahead is uncertain, you can feel something stirring inside you, a spark of something new, something alive. For the first time in what feels like forever, you don't have to play the game anymore. You can choose your own path. The wind whispers through the desert, carrying with it the scent of the earth, of the night, of a world that feels untamed and free. It's a reminder that there's more to this world than the confines of the walls you've built. The quiet hum of life outside the saloon has always been there, always waiting for you to notice it. Now, For the first time, you hear it. Hear the soft rustle of the trees, the distant call of a coyote, the faint murmur of the world turning, ever moving, ever alive. You glance over at the man walking beside you, his face lit by the soft glow of the stars above. His presence is steady, like the land itself, grounding you as you both walk forward, leaving behind the past and stepping into the unknown. His silence doesn't feel heavy anymore, doesn't feel like a challenge. It feels like peace. It feels like the kind of quiet that comes only when you've made a choice, when you've let go of the things that held you back. You were right, you say quietly, almost to yourself, but loud enough for him to hear. I didn't know what I was really after. I thought it was all about surviving, about keeping control, but there's something else, something more, something I've been too afraid to look at. He doesn't reply, but the slight nod of his head is enough. He understands. He doesn't need to say anything. His presence here, beside you, is enough. You take another step, the sound of your boots on the earth rhythmic, steady. The world feels different now, softer, as if the weight of everything you've carried for so long is slowly lifting, piece by piece. The future is still unclear, still shrouded in the darkness of the unknown, but for the first time in years, you don't feel afraid of it. You feel ready, ready to take the next step, to see where this new path leads. As the first light of dawn begins to creep over the horizon, the world around you is bathed in a soft golden glow. The desert stretches out before you, vast and endless, a place that once felt like a wilderness of survival and loss, but now feels like a canvas, a place where you can paint your own story. You're no longer the madam of the saloon, no longer the woman trapped by the walls of her own creation. You're someone new, someone who has finally let go of the past and stepped into the future. You walk toward the light, toward whatever comes next, and for the first time, you feel alive. Not just surviving, not just existing, but truly living. The horizon opens up before you, and you take that first step into the unknown, knowing that whatever happens, you will be ready. And as the sun begins to rise, you finally understand. This is only the beginning. The sun begins to dip lower in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over the landscape. The forest ahead seems to soften under the fading light, the shadows lengthening, stretching across the path as if time itself is slowing down. The familiar hum of the soldier's march continues, but now it feels quieter somehow, less urgent. The sound of your boots on the earth, the rhythmic thud against the ground, becomes a comfort, a steady beat that seems to carry you forward, step after step. The weight of the rifle against your shoulder is still there, still present, but it doesn't feel as heavy as it once did. It has become just another part of you, like the dust clinging to your uniform or the ache in your muscles. The war may be relentless, but in this moment there is a sense of peace, however fleeting. The world around you feels vast, full of possibilities that you haven't allowed yourself to think about in a long time. You feel the cool evening air against your skin, the slight breeze that rustles the leaves overhead, and for a moment everything slows down. There is no gunfire, no chaos, no fear of what tomorrow might bring. There is only this stillness, this quiet walk, this brief moment of respite from everything you've endured. You glance over at Davis, walking beside you. He too seems changed in this moment. The weight of the war still clings to him, but there's a subtle shift in his expression, a softness, a quiet relief in his eyes that mirrors your own. Perhaps it's the simple relief of knowing you've made it this far, of knowing that, for now, you are still alive. There are no promises in this life, no guarantees, but right now, you are here, and that is enough. The camp you've been heading toward finally comes into view, the small tents and makeshift shelters nestled against the edge of the trees. The smoke rising from the campfire adds a sense of familiarity to the scene, a reminder of the many nights spent under the same sky, in the same exhaustion, the same silent understanding that this is all you have. The war may stretch on forever, but in this small, quiet corner of the world, you've found a place where the noise of the battlefield doesn't reach. The sounds of the soldiers settling into the camp fill the air. Soft conversations, the clinking of tin cups, the shuffle of tired feet against the ground. You stand there for a moment, taking it all in. You're here. You've made it through another day, another battle, another march. It feels like such a small thing, such a simple thing, but it's everything. The warmth of the campfire, the quiet murmur of men still awake, the distant stars twinkling above. You are here, and for now, that's all that matters. Davis drops his pack and moves toward the fire, his steps slow, deliberate. You follow, doing the same, the familiar weight of your gear settling into place as you prepare for the evening routine. The air smells of smoke, and the earth beneath your feet feels solid, grounded, unyielding. There is something reassuring in that. In a world where everything seems uncertain, where everything feels like it could be taken from you in an instant, there is something profoundly comforting in the earth beneath your feet, in the fire that flickers before you, in the men who have shared this journey with you. You sit beside Davis by the fire, the warmth of the flames a welcome relief against the cool night air. The crackling of the fire fills the silence between you, and for a moment there is nothing else. No battles, no war, no fear of what comes next. There is only the fire, the company of your comrades, and the sense of peace that fills you from the inside out. You look around at the men in the camp, their faces illuminated by the firelight, their expressions worn but resolute. You know that the war isn't over, that tomorrow will bring its own challenges, but for now, you are here, in this moment, with the men who have stood by your side. Davis leans back, his eyes gazing up at the stars, his hands folded in his lap. He speaks quietly, almost to himself. Maybe we're not so alone in all this after all. His voice is soft, but there's a quiet sincerity in it. It's a sentiment you share, one you didn't realize you were craving until now. The simple knowledge that you're not in this alone, that you've walked this path with others who understand the weight you carry. The fire crackles again, sending a brief shower of sparks into the night sky. The light dances across the soldiers' faces, casting fleeting shadows that seem to hold the quiet stories of the war, of the struggles, the losses, the small victories. You sit there for a long time, letting the stillness seep into you, letting the warmth of the fire and the quiet of the night fill the spaces in your heart that war has hollowed out. Eventually, the sounds of the camp begin to fade as the men settle down for the night. The fire burns low, its warmth fading, and the stars above grow brighter, shining down on a world that feels both far away and so close at the same time. You close your eyes, the exhaustion from the march finally catching up with you. Your body aches, your mind is heavy, but there's a quiet, simple satisfaction in knowing that for tonight you are safe. For tonight there is peace. Tomorrow the war will return. But for now, you let yourself rest. One more night, one more breath, one more moment of stillness before the march begins again.